Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back. Welcome back to the stream. Oh, excuse me. Welcome back to Divinity Original Sin. I was just snacking on a little bit of Christmas chocolate. Kind of explains why I'm a minute late. Oh boy. Yeah. Was up a little bit later yesterday, or rather this morning, however you want to say it. So, still waking up, kinda. I mean, I had breakfast and everything, but need to get into the groove of things, need to get ready for what awaits us in Divinity today. Yeah, I would say let's probably get right into it. Not waste too much time here. But we left off last time, which was, what was it? Thursday. Let's load in. We left off in the underground hideout / cellar, where apparently a family that was employed by the wizard Zandalor fled to. These guys here that are sitting at the table. It took me a little bit of time. Last time we did a bunch of stuff here in Hunter's Edge. There is a lot that's going on here. And some of it is not only quite intriguing, but also interesting to, well, solve or puzzle out, however you want to say it. But there are multiple investigations, quest lines, and things that are going on currently in Hunter's Edge that is still occupied by the orcs and the warriors from the north. And we're sort of in the middle of it. They've been looking for this family for quite a while. They know that they must be somewhere, but they had no idea where they fled to. And I was on the fence and am still quite concerned that now that we found out where they are and possibly got rid of the enchantment that was protecting the entrance to this cellar, that somehow the others are gonna know where they are too. I hope not. I think that's just a small little detail that's not really mentioned, but I hope that we haven't, given the others an in into this whole hideout here. So hopefully these guys are safe. That being said, we are helping them escape now. So, well, I did a bunch of stuff last time. Most notably, probably, we're still... Well, I rescued some people from the prison / torture chamber that the orcs and warriors established here. And we went down there. We pretended to be part of the Immaculates still, but at the end of the day, one of the people that we tried to rescue actually gave us away. We talked a little bit too long, I think, about, well, that we're here to rescue them. The others got wind of it and attacked us. After a second try, I actually did get through. Technically, I also got through the first try, but it was all a little bit messy. The second try definitely went much smoother and finally made it through. We helped them escape. One thing that's still baffling me a little bit is the whole investigation into what happened at the armory, because somehow one of the northern warriors seems to have been abducted, possibly killed. We found a lot of blood that leads to what's called the Night Temple. But if I, once I got in there, there were giant statues that seemed fairly impossible to deal with, although I could have tried, but they looked like they would have one-shot my party if they got the chance to, so really not entirely sure how that's supposed to work, and I can't progress the quest currently, so I don't really know, you know, how that all fits together, how at the end of the day there might be... Well, I just don't know. I feel like I'm missing part of the puzzle to get through that temple specifically, so that I can then hopefully find out what happened to this one warrior, because it looks like one of the orcs might have something to do with that. At least one of the orcs seems to have told other orcs that they need to be stationed in front of the temple, and they're sort of guarding it. So I suspected that they're there so that people don't find or can't find out what happened to that warrior guy. But yeah, I was definitely kind of missing the point, or rather not really understanding. I mean, the temple itself seems to have pretty good defenses, so what are the orcs doing there? Maybe they're really just there so that you don't see the that huge sort of blood spill in front of the grate where the body probably has been thrown into. I don't really know. There's still a lot of mystery going on, but one thing that I did or was able to find out is that there is this hidden cellar here in the city, and apparently the wizard Zandalor had made some preparations in case Hunter's Edge was attacked, and this family, who seems to have been employed by him, they were able to enact an enchantment that placed a magical boulder on top of the cellar door, which pretty much up until this point helped them stay hidden, because nobody was really able to get in here unless you had the key specifically and knew where it was. I found both, so I was able to get in, talk to them, and now we have this other mirror here, and that supposedly leads into Zandalor's house. And we think, or rather the family told me, that that would be a good escape route for them. But the problem is the entire house has been trapped and rigged, and for obvious reasons, right? The Zandalor didn't want these people, or the, you know, in case anybody attacked Hunter's Edge, to be able to get in there. So now we have to get out and possibly deal with all these traps, and well, we'll see what kind of stuff he came up with, right? So that's where I left off. That's where we are going. I don't think we really have anything else to do here. I already talked to all of them. We made clear what we're, you know, up to, and what we'll be up to next. And they gave us they gave me a, I think an amulet or something. Well, something that activated this mirror. So now we're finally able to get through. Let me just double check. Yeah, I didn't read this the last time. Could have probably done that to recap the story as well, but whatever. We discovered that the wizard went to the Source Temple located in the Phantom Forest. Oh yeah, that's, by the way, we know that Zandalor went off. He's not even at home anymore. He went to the Source Temple because he got wind of Leandra being there. Leandra wants something out of it in order to accomplish her goals, and Zandalor went there as well because, well, first of all, he apparently has something that she would need in order to activate a certain function of the temple or access its, you know, magical capabilities. She's not able to do that on her own, but she's trying to circumvent what defenses are left at that temple, and Zandalor obviously was concerned that she might, even without the key, be able to get through it. So I guess he went off trying to protect the temple, but he's not here anymore. In a small chest in his house, we'll find an amulet that will allow safe passage into the forest. Once there, we should look for the forest spirit, who will give us a rune that will allow us to enter the source temple. That's also what we got from the Zandalor's family servants here. Yeah, they told us how to get into the temple, so we'll have to do that. And I think the chest we're looking for is in his bedroom, if I recall correctly. So that's another thing we need to look out for. We discovered where the servants of the Wizard of Hunter's Edge were hiding. He left a message for Ikara asking her to meet him in the Temple of the Source. A forest spirit within Phantom Forest can tell us how to enter the temple. Oh yeah, by the way, Ikara gave us a ring of hers that looks exactly like one that Zandalor has as well, and that's how we were able to convince these guys to let us enter the mirror, which I still think... I don't think I really talked about that last time, but I definitely find it, let's say, curious that Ikara just sits there at the end of time, not really helping us. I guess she's still recovering from being encased in ice for a very long time in Hyberheim, but, you know, at least Arhu in his cat form is, you know, still in that sort of general entrance area to Hunter's Edge. He doesn't really do much, but at least he's here. I don't know. I feel like those two could help us out quite a bit if they wanted to. I'm not entirely sure whether, you know, keeping themselves separated so much from what's going on. But then again, first of all, Ikara definitely knows something about us being, you know, the two main characters in this particular case. Who we might be, so maybe they specifically want to let us do this on our own for some reason. I don't really know. Maybe there's another reason, right? I mean, Ikara herself being there would also put a giant target on everybody, right? We, I think, are quite a bit more inconspicuous. Sometimes I don't really think we are, but, well, we were able to infiltrate this village and tell them that we're supposedly immaculates, and it worked. So always quite surprised that that's a thing that actually worked out, but it did, and it probably wouldn't have if Ikara straight up would have been here with us. But again, that being said, she is very powerful, and you'd assume that she would be able to maybe disguise herself as well in some form or another. I don't really know. I mean, maybe she'll come into play, and maybe Arhu and her, you know, maybe they'll come into play at the very end and actually be there and help us. Could be. But still, sometimes it's definitely, let's say, it's a very, very small point, and I don't really have an issue with it, but it is interesting that they didn't really, I guess, explain that all that well. Right, I wish there would have been at least sort of one line that explained why these technically high-level people can't help us, right? It's a bit of an... I guess it's a good example where game mechanics that are being displayed to the player can sometimes, you know, lead to a situation that just feels a little bit awkward, because we can see that both Arhu and Ikara, I think, are like, what, level 20, right? So, like, on paper, if all these NPCs were just literal chess pieces in a game, you'd think, oh yeah, sure, we have more level 20 pieces than our opponent, so we should be able to beat them quite easily, but obviously that's not how it works. There's a bunch of actual sort of role-playing stuff around it, right? But it's just something where I wish that they would maybe put a little bit more emphasis on and make clear as to why, well, certain characters maybe aren't helping as much as they theoretically would be able to. I don't know. Because, I mean, there might be a perfectly good explanation. It's just that they don't really put any emphasis on that for some reason. Anyways, the hidden villagers are trying to get out of Hunter's Edge through the wizard's house by means of a portal in the cellar. We need to disable the defenses in the wizard's house in order for them to find it safely. Alright, let's do that. Crystal fits perfectly inside the socket. The portal whirls to life. There we go. Alright, that's a bit of a... So you spawn in at a point where you're immediately berated by fire. Interesting. Okay. It's also quite interesting because we're literally just behind this. Like it's an actual house. There's, I suppose, nothing more going on there. And we have these people still standing in front of it. Very, very interesting. Oh my god, there's a bunch of stuff here. Okay, let's see. She should technically be able to... Let me just double check before I move again. I know all the stuff that's flying around can be quite annoying, but... I just wanted to double check who has the... trap disarming toolkits, because I'm pretty sure I still have a bunch. There we go. 10. Wait, can I not disable that? Do I need to technically find it first, or... Well, this is awkward. Secret of the Scroll. Eradicate. So those are just random books, nothing. The Divine One's Return. I thought that maybe we would be finding some sort of manual that would explain how to disable these traps, but then again, that might also be... It would be kind of dumb for him to just leave that stuff lying around the house, right? Side powers. There's definitely a bunch of interesting stuff here. I don't know if it just doesn't count as being discovered, or... I mean, purely these fireballs themselves don't really deal too much damage. I don't know what these things in the ground are even supposed to be here for. I don't fully understand why I can't disable them. This isn't even really that... I was expecting way more in terms of defenses. I mean, there's a bunch of fire going around, but so what? It's not really that dangerous, right? I was expecting a bunch of stuff that would just blow us up immediately, more or less. Pretty annoying that it's constantly shaking the screen. Let's see. Psi powers. Reality or superstition? Is it really true that in the past our priests had access to powerful psi powers? Some historians found ancient texts that indicate this. If this is true, then we must have lost these powers a long time ago. It seems far more likely that these tales are highly exaggerated. Cool. Well, that wasn't really useful. Zandalor scroll. Z. The secret entrance to your cellar is in place, you sneaky devil. Now, what would you be hiding down there? In any case, that's for you to know. Bring this parchment to the little spot between the dining table and the mirror and read its incantation. Easy as cherry picking pie. Cheers, and I'll be expecting to collect my payment within a fortnight. G. Who the hell is G? Should I know that? Trying to think of whether or not I met a character that was called something with G in front. Okay, so we need to read this. The little spot between the dining table and the mirror.
It doesn't seem to work here. A scroll of revelation. There must be something of some value hidden here.
Yeah, I mean, the screen shake gets pretty annoying after a while. Between the dining table and the mirror, isn't that pretty much exactly where all the fire is constantly going? Let's try it here. There we go. Okay. A hatch. I actually expected these frickin' traps to stop, but let's quick save in case I die. Well, I guess I can look at the rest of the house later on. And let's combine her again. Wizard's house cellar. There are all these cellars around. At some point it gets a little bit confusing as to where we actually are, because they look so similar. I like how there are so many. How are wizards in fantasy, how are they always connected to magical brooms? I think at one point I actually read why brooms are such a thing for, oh no, that was... Where was that? I'm trying to remember. Okay, so apparently there was a... I don't know, has that really anything to do with brooms? I don't even know whether or not this is accurate, by the way, right? So take this with a huge grain of salt. But I think there was... I definitely... I just don't remember where it was. Was it a comedy show? Which should already tell you, you know, how much truth there might be in something like this. But that being said, I mean, there is, it is very interesting as to how the idea of witches flying on brooms came about, right? I mean, sure, it seems like nowadays it's just something that you kind of take for granted, right? It's this one of those weird things that just exists. But when you really start thinking about it, I mean, yeah, how does something like that start, right? Because it must have been started with either a rumor or something that was, you know, somehow brooms were connected to witches. I don't know. So, okay. I don't fully remember where I heard this. It was some kind of show. I think it was somebody talking about this. It might have been some sort of... I think it was some sort of comedy show. I don't know, but it was definitely about the topics of, wait, where do these brooms come from, right? Why do we think that witches ride on brooms? And apparently there were, let's say, substances, right? Drugs, more or less, that were quite potent. Because, I mean, most people probably know that, but you can, let's say, insert alcohol, for example, in various forms into your body, right? So there are people who've, like, if you put it into your, you know, genital organs or your behind, then it gets infused into your bloodstream quite a bit quicker as if you were to drink it, right? And that's actually really, really dangerous. I mean, there are stories about, you know, younger girls, for example, that have done that and severely either hurt themselves or even died of alcohol poisoning, right? Because it's like, if you do that with vodka, for example, it really just directly gets that into your blood flow, and it's really quite dangerous, and obviously you shouldn't do it. That being said, you can technically do the same with drugs, apparently. So there might have been sort of mind-enhancing substances even, you know, back in sort of the Middle Ages, and apparently there are rumors about women potentially sort of putting that on the handle of a broom and then, you know, putting the broom between their legs in order to take the substance in that way, right? And get the stimulating effects of it. And, well, there might be some truth in that. Obviously, I have no idea. But yeah, I mean, somehow these kinds of things come up, right? And actually, more often than not, these, what we now have as funny little, I guess, ideas in sort of fantasy movies or games or whatever, quite a few of the things that are a little bit more out there in terms of, you know, where they come from, quite a few of those things actually originated from pretty dark places or ideas, right? It's just that we sort of take that. It's the same as with pirates, for example, right? Pirates were actually pretty terrible human beings overall, but they've been romanticized over the years, and now they're kind of a... And that's completely fine, by the way, right? It's just because there were pirates like 200 years ago who raped women and whatnot, doesn't mean that, you know, a kid nowadays can't build like a pirate Lego ship or something, right? I mean, it's completely ridiculous to try to shoehorn those two things together, but it's interesting to think about, right? And I guess you could still make certain arguments about maybe not romanticizing, you know, people that were really, really bad, but I don't think anybody is really doing that, right? I mean, somebody who's playing as a pirate or with pirate ships as a kid doesn't endorse what some people did like 150 years ago, right? It's completely ridiculous to say that. So, you know, there isn't really a problem with that. It's just, well, you know, as you get older, it might be interesting to know where those things actually originated from. And quite a few of these sort of magical things, or not magical, but fantastical things, also, you know, a whole bunch of orcs and these fantasy races and all of that, there's certainly always a little bit of an element of a sort of a darker past there where, you know, whatever. But it's just interesting. I don't know if that's true. It could be. I mean, sure. It's just, it's such a, when you really think about it, such a ridiculous thing that wizards and witches are always connected to brooms somehow. And then when you also consider how much of an impact that had, right? I mean, I'm just sort of thinking about the, what was the Disney movie called, where they took the old legend about the broom that then, oh god, I forgot the name of it, but you know, the broom that doesn't stop sweeping, and then there's like this army of brooms that's completely taken over the wizard's house or something. There is that Disney film where Mickey Mouse is the wizard, right? I think. God, I don't even remember what that's called. It's been ages since I watched that. I think I need to look that up after the stream, but yeah, it's just it's one of those topics that can be quite interesting to look into, right? Why the hell are there so many brooms when it comes to sort of fantasy, witches and wizards? Specifically also because they now actually, you know, they can be quite a cool sort of character, I guess. Character is maybe the wrong word, or asset. I'm just thinking about Matoya's brooms in Final Fantasy XIV. They're really sort of, they add so much to certain scenes, right? And they even use that very element to sort of referred back to what Matoya has done later in Shadowbringers, when Ishtola also, you know, summons a broom to clean her her sort of study room there in the first, right? It's just, sometimes it's just crazy to me how such an element that has had quite a weird travel through history and was utilized in so many bits and pieces of entertainment media, but also maybe other stuff, and then it suddenly ends up in these scenes that we're now watching and playing through, and I don't know, it's just super interesting to me. And because now we have so much entertainment and so many different pieces of media that it gets quite convoluted, and that's kind of a good thing, right? Because when anybody, let's say, you know, reads a book or plays through a specific game, there can be so many elements out of all these different bits and pieces of you know, legends and mysteries throughout history that can be constructed in a completely new way. And I personally always like that, specifically about Japanese games, that they just take sort of a real life lore, right, about gods and creation myths, and they just take that and mesh it all together and construct a completely new world that just utilizes elements of the former. And the reason why that's so interesting to me is that it's because religion did the same thing in the past, right? I mean, Christianity, for example, just took old traditions, and specifically something like Christmas was originally a completely different kind of holiday, right? Or not really holiday, I guess you wouldn't really call it a holiday 2,000 years ago, but they just took something that was already established, right? Something that people already celebrated, and just made it their own, and just put a different name on it, essentially, right? And that's how they converted a lot of people to become Christians, because you didn't really have to change much in order to be that, right? Because all the traditions and feasts were exactly the same, right? That was really clever that they did that, but it's also it's quite an interesting parallel, I think, to, well, let's say Final Fantasy, right? Or specifically Final Fantasy XIV. That's the one that I played the most. And when you really look at how they're taking sort of northern myths, right? And then we have the dragons like Tiamat, Bahamut, right? Those are names that exist in so many pieces of media nowadays. But they're also taking stuff like Shiva, right? And they mash it all together, but at the end of the day, it creates an incredibly interesting and cool story. And by utilizing these elements that we also knew from or know from the real world, it automatically, I think, comes with this idea that there is more going on, right? That there is more sort of information and a whole history behind these creatures, even if the game itself doesn't specifically. I mean, in the case of Final Fantasy XIV, it builds an insane amount of lore over the course of its runtime, and also with various bits and pieces. But so that may be a little bit of a bad example for that specifically, but you know, when you take these pieces that already have counterparts in the real world and have all this history behind them, and you just drop a name like that, right? A name like Bahamut, let's say, then it automatically feels like way more than what the game might specifically be presenting in that particular moment, because it automatically comes with this aura of having all that combined history of everything that has been done with that specific name over the course of human history behind it, right? It's a very sort of interesting way to do that. It can be, you know, if you're not careful, it can feel very cheap, right? If you just drop a name like that, but that then don't really back it up with anything that comes out of your own game or book or whatever, then it can feel quite cheap. But if you do it right, it can be pretty incredible, right? I just think that's super interesting. And again, the brooms being another one of those weird examples where it's present pretty much everywhere, where you also have witches and wizards. I mean, the concept of witches specifically is also everywhere, but it's interesting. And then it's also super interesting how there's always something different, right, about how brooms in this specific case are utilized, right? Sometimes they're magical, sometimes they're not, sometimes they fly with them, sometimes they're not, right? It's just super interesting. And specifically for me, I always find it well, I always like to know more about the creative process behind that, right? How much did they really think about that? How much of it is just taken, pretty much copied over from other myths, legends, whatever? And how much did they put in themselves, right? Did they think about how they could enhance it? Or did they combine certain elements? Or did they come up with something on their own, right? There are all these different questions as to how it could have been designed. And yeah, that's just, I don't know. It's just super interesting. It's a super interesting topic to me personally, but yeah, let's maybe continue with the game for the time being. All right, so I hope that there aren't any more traps down here. I don't necessarily think so, but I guess you never know. Honestly, sort of not really hiding a bit of parchment under your bear rug that immediately leads to your hidden cellar. Oh, well, then again, I mean, people would have had trouble getting into the house to begin with, right? So I guess it's not too bad to leave that lying around. I'm actually quite surprised that I just found that. I don't know. I guess I just accidentally went to the right spot immediately. Bit unfortunate. But, I mean, we can always look around the upper portion of the house later on. Hopefully after we've been able to disable all the traps. Why do people constantly leave stacks of gold in barrels? I feel like that's a very strange way to even hide your money, to be honest. These are still locked, though. Lock level 5. Invulnerability scroll? Okay. I don't know. It feels like I might be missing something else here, huh? Maybe this isn't even specifically what we're looking for? Let's increase her perception a little bit, just to make absolutely sure that I'm not missing any sort of potential switch on the wall or the floor or whatever else. Well, that's obviously the problem with not investing into lockpicking with at least one of your characters. I'm not able to pick this lock, but I'm also not entirely sure what I would even be doing on the other side of the door. I mean, there's a bunch of interesting loot here, but it does not look like there is anything that I really need. I think. Maybe the cellar just is sort of a hidden loot chamber or something. Can I teleport her over there? I can. Boink. Sorry, but this needed to be done.
I needed that.
At least that works, I suppose.
Back on my feet again.
Bunch of healing potions. I wonder... This feels like they're already preparing me for some sort of encounter, right? I don't know if that's really something you can say about this game. Why is my cursor not allowing me to pick that stuff up? Let's do it this way then. Yeah, this feels like they're all already preparing me for a big fight or something, right? Don't know if that's specifically it, but... Why are they... Sometimes the cursor is really, really annoying to utilize, specifically because it's tied to the camera as well, right? I wish there would be a mode where you could move the cursor without moving the camera. There we go. There we go. Nice. Magical unlock. I mean, these seem to be quite powerful scrolls, but they're not, you know, they're nothing specific. Oh, hail attack skill book. Nice. It doesn't even seem like there is a switch to open the door here. Now I'm really confused. Why is this hidden away? What exactly would be the point? Unlock a magically locked door or container. Okay. Hail attack. 20 ice shards rain from the sky, each doing water damage to entities within 17 meters from impact. Can she... Oh no, never mind. It's a scroll. Oops. I thought it was a... Oh no, never mind. It's a scale. Only allows you to learn one master hydrosophist skill. Make yourself invulnerable. 100% chance to set invulnerable status for 2 turns. Interesting. I wonder... I'm pretty sure this wouldn't work on lava, let's say. Right? I'm fairly certain that I would still die if I had this active and would just walk on a surface of lava. Let me double check. What's the master level skill that I currently have? Winter Blast. Right. I mean, I do like Winter Blast a bit more than the what's it called? Hail attack. I'm not the biggest fan of these meteor strikes. I realize that they can be really, really powerful, especially if you can hit an area that's, you know, where the enemies, if the enemies stay, I guess, in a loose circle or something, where you can specifically place it so that it's very, very likely to hit a bunch of enemies, that's fine. But I feel like that specific situation isn't really occurring all that often, and even if it is, you still need to get fairly lucky to actually hit them, right? Because it's random. The distribution of these is random. And then you can never really use it when one of your characters is already quite close to enemies, because you might accidentally hit them, right? Obviously, you can prepare that. Let's say if Medora were to go in, I could give her a, like, fire immunity resistance stuff and then put the meteor strike down, but it's still... I like things more where I exactly know where they end up, right? Which is not to say that meteor strike can't be useful. Oh, sorry. I think I hit my mic, but, yeah, it's... Invulnerability, on the other hand, seems to be... I mean, if you can... At some point, this has to be an almost spell book, right? Hopefully? Being completely invulnerable for, like, 2 turns? I mean, it would probably cost a lot of AP, and if it only lasts 2 turns, but has, like, a 9-turn cooldown. Or maybe it can even only be used 1 time per encounter. I don't know how useful it will really be, but...
It doesn't seem to work here.
Yeah, no shit. Alright, I need to teleport her back, otherwise she's stuck there. Or maybe she's anyways. Wait. Please don't tell me she's stuck there now. That would be pretty dumb. Oops. Ah, never mind. She just, I guess, stood awkwardly around the corner. I hate how I know that there is a teleport spell because I had it one time as a scroll. Or maybe I still have that scroll. There is a teleport spell that allows you to teleport people without damaging them as well. Not that it's really a big issue when you do it with your main characters. I just don't know why I was never able to find that specific spell as a spell book. Because having to do it this way always feels very, very awkward. I don't know, is this really purely for loot? I feel like I'm missing something important in the cellar, but it might really just be, oh, here's a cellar with a bunch of cool magical scrolls. Whoa! Why is everything burning way more now? Yeah, this is bad. I think as long as I don't move, I might be able to survive, because thankfully I'm currently standing at a point where
I've been struck by lightning.
I'm standing at a point where I'm not in fire, thankfully. Oh, for fuck's sake, that... I hate it when games do this, right? It's like, okay, I'm getting stunned. I get it. That's fine. I just hate it that getting stunned also means that you are, that your mouse cursor gets reverted, right? Maybe it wasn't such a great idea to get into the cellar. Yeah, I know. How can I not... It doesn't even let me change freaking characters once I... Speed her up. Okay, I can already see this being incredibly annoying.
Back on my feet again. I feel like I should set still.
Yeah, this is honestly a bit dumb, but whatever. Just want to make sure that everybody's healed up. I feel like I'm actually a bit lucky here that I'm not standing in fire.
As good as a new pin.
I don't know what's going on though, that suddenly all these traps actually... Oh, you know what might have happened?
I feel like I'm set in stone.
When I came back out from the cellar, one of my characters probably accidentally stepped on a pressure plate that I just didn't activate before. I imagine something like that. I think I might have gotten incredibly lucky here.
Shield me. I am powerless to protect myself.
Okay, let me see. I think it might be a good idea to separate my characters.
Shield me. I have power to protect myself.
Just so that nobody accidentally runs into something they're not supposed to be in.
Demon's breath, I've been paralyzed.
Okay, so she's slightly out of the stun area. That's good. I should have... Where is that spell? Can you stop running? Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, well. Why are they... God, I hate that so much. They're... I mean, in this case, I guess it was good. I think they automatically ran out of the area that could stun them, but... They could have just as easily, you know, walked into another area that would have killed them. Okay, I can cure stun. I thought I had a spell that made it impossible to be stunned. But I guess not. Yeah, this one. The scroll though. But why can I still not disable them? Well, this is awkward. Let's still do a cheeky quick save here. Well, at least the stun cloud doesn't deal damage, so... Ooh, I want to run. Whereas the fire will. There's something. A button. I think that just opens up that secret entryway down. Aren't the guys outside wondering why the whole house is suddenly exploding? Also, are all the furniture completely immune to fire? Because I thought they would have just burned up by this point. Where's the poison coming from? Oh, it's over here. Well... I don't know. This makes things a little bit awkward, I feel like. It's especially strange because nothing's going on in this particular corner of the room. Makes me think that maybe the solution to this thing, or the way to turn it off, is in this corner, but I don't see anything. Well, what the hell am I supposed to do now? I think I could, well, With a little bit of luck, I could try to go through the stun area here and just move upstairs and see what's going on there, right? As long as I don't run into any other traps. Might be able to just... I don't know. Turn them off? Wouldn't the way to turn the stuff off be down here, though? Maybe not. I mean, ultimately, I think I do have to go upstairs, but... This is honestly quite annoying. It's just... Well, not too much. I mean, it's strange, right? It definitely makes sense. I mean, this is specifically what we've been told about. Yeah, his house is rigged with traps and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But not actually having a way to turn them off for some reason. Not even being able to disarm them. It's all quite strange. Let's just cast this on herself and then move through the...
Safety.
Oh. Alright. Hey, there's another mirror here. Mirror on? Whatever that means. Some more magical doors. I wonder if this leads Druid's personal waypoint shrine. Alright. House Defense's Master Switch. Well, that's definitely where I want to go. Journal. How do I deactivate these magical doors, though? Do you think it would make sense to bring everybody up here? I mean, I should be able to do it because... Well, I'll be stunned a little bit in the meantime. Other than that, it should work, though. Secrets of the Source Temple. Okay, that's where the stuff for getting into the temple would be. Problem really is that... Oh, wait, there's another lever here. Okay. So probably somehow would have to turn this mirror on. Maybe there is a way to get to this mirror, or from this one to this one. Then I can activate this lever, which hopefully would deactivate these magical doors, and then let me activate the master switch. Why is the trap disappearing?
It's a mirage.
Oh, wait, they're not actual traps? Or are they? One second here. Let me just... sorry about that.
Treasure on
Whoa.
the ground. Who's the grandest dame in town?
How the hell am I supposed to know that? Wait, is this referring to... I feel like Bersha? Isn't that the name of the cow lady in Sicil? And Nadia is the lady of, Nadia is the lady that I met in Silverglen, right? I think. So maybe it's Victoria? That's the only name that I don't know within the game, I think. Let's just go with it. I mean...
What a horn-loving dog you are. I won't hear such nonsense. No, indeed. An orc isn't really a dame in any case, is it?
Oh, fuck. Never mind. There was an orc that's... Oh, shit. Wait. Can I just do this a bunch more times?
Treasure on the ground. That carnivorous farmhand. I certainly think not. Treasure on the... I suppose if you're titillated by the brutalization of our beloved language, Nadia's the proper choice for you. Unfortunately, you've chosen wrong for any soul with half an ounce of sense.
Okay, so I guess we're not meant to open this up. Alright, well. There has to be a secret to this mirror. The thing is... Why do I have a smelly scarf? I thought that maybe the... but I guess we put that into the mirror in the other cellar, right? The thing that we used to use the first of these mirrors. Back in the cellar where the Zandalor servant family still is. This one probably has a different kind of solution. I mean, if they're all not really real, then what's the point? I wonder.
Are my eyes fooling me?
What did I do that the background noise suddenly changes? Oh, hello. What the fuck? I really should go through my inventories and everything at one point. Let's read this. Entrance to the Source Temple is guarded by a massive stone door, so stout it would take an army a year to force entry into the temple. However, carriers of the magic rune will find the stone slides open as easily as a spring breeze. The only known remaining rune stone, apart from that belonging to the keeper, that would be Zandalor, I think, belongs to the spirit of the Phantom Forest. Alright, so that's what we've already heard. Trial of Ascension not being the only way into the first garden. Tales are told of a secret teleportation mirror that would bypass the entire trial. Knowledge and usage of this mirror is strictly restricted to the High Sorcerer of the temple. Okay. Oh. Well, I probably should have known that would happen at some point. So as soon as you pick something up, just all the mirage mines and everything just explode. Can I cast rain to get rid of the fire? Oh boy, it almost scared me. Yeah, I might be able to. Are they all gone now, or can they explode again? Because it would be pretty cool if I can just... If they're all exploded now, and that's it. I'm honestly quite surprised that I even survived that, but... Phantom Protection Amulet. Dexterity Perception. This amulet can protect its wearer from the shades that haunt the Phantom Forest, granting the wearer safe passage within its haunted borders. I just wonder if we can... Found Zandalor's amulet. He who wears it can safely enter Phantom Forest. Does that count for our entire party, or... Should probably quick save. I honestly think that I got quite lucky here with some of the, what's it called? Some of the traps in this house. Hey, I can use that to write my own... I think... I never had a magical ink pot up until this point. I do still have some empty scrolls though. Blank air, earth, fire, witchcraft. Let's try these. Witchcraft is pretty cool. Okay. And... oh, what? Wait, so as soon as you have one of these, it can just be used indefinitely? That would be kind of crazy. What did I get though? Do you just get a blank skill book? No, it's a scroll, right? Air skill scroll. Oh, I guess it just turns into a random thing. Okay, cool. It's a bit weird and not really all that helpful, but I guess it's fine. So it's really just you find this magical ink and quill, or you can, I mean, I guess maybe there's a way to get some pixie dust fairly early on. That might actually be it, right? Because that's really the only thing you need in order to craft this magical ink and quill yourself. And as soon as you have it, it just allows you to indefinitely craft things with blank scrolls. I guess there's still a way to create blank scrolls, but... huh. What a weird thing. But I guess I can just finally get rid of these then. At least it's cool that they give you the magic ink pot and quill at some point, right? Because otherwise I would have never been able to use that or to do anything with the scrolls. That being said, with the blank skill books, does it work the same? No. So I need something else for that. I wonder though, would it also be random? It might be, right? That's actually unfortunate. When I first saw that you'd be able to craft both skill books and magical scrolls and whatnot, I thought that it would allow you to choose, right? Obviously based on your crafting skill and whatnot. But I thought that that you'd be able to, if your crafting skill was very high, that you'd be able to choose what kind of scroll you get. This way it's a bit more boring, I think. I don't know. I actually... as much as I'd have liked to put points in crafting, it's another one of those weird examples where because you just get an insane amount of loot from the game to begin with, being able to craft very well doesn't really help that much, right? And considering that you'd have to put a bunch of ability points into it that you can also technically use on other, you know, offensive skills and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, crafting... I mean, you know, this is always under the assumption that I obviously don't know everything about the game yet. It's still my first playthrough, so maybe there is something about crafting specifically that makes it really, really useful, but so far I don't think it actually is. And, well, I think that generally in games, that can be quite often a problem. Generally, I think crafting should allow you to get stuff that is completely unobtainable otherwise, right? So being able to put additional stats on gear, for example, right? Because if you can find something just randomly as loot that can also be crafted, then the crafted piece is kind of pointless, right? Obviously, it depends. If your loot is super, super random, and if rarer loot or rare loot pieces in general are just that, right? They're super rare, but by crafting, you are able to get them more easily. That's a different story. That would work out then, but now the game just straight up gives me really rare loot all the time, so, you know, it takes way more effort to craft that stuff rather than just get it randomly. So I really wish that crafting would allow for more. As cool as the crafting seemed in the beginning, I still really, really like the sort of random combination part of it, right? That you can just freely try out any kind of combination, and sometimes there are really, really cool ones that just, you know, create something you might have not really expected. That is quite cool, but the longer the game goes on, the more, or the less interesting it seems, and the less you can do with it, right? And I just wish that crafting, for example, allowed you... It would be awesome if you could specifically manipulate certain stats on gear, for example, right? Because, I mean, I talked about that at some point, but I focused on movement for a very long time, and if I'd have been able to pick a specific piece that I liked, but maybe didn't have movement on it, and, you know, being able to do something with crafting so that I can specifically put that one sort of additional stat on that gear piece that I like a lot, that would have been pretty awesome. But sadly, that's not really how it works, right? So in the beginning, the crafting seemed pretty cool, but, you know, the longer the game goes on, it just seems very rudimentary, honestly. Magical Tragedies, Part 3. Obstinate Demons. Are there any other kind? Well, I definitely don't need that book. Once again, I'm a little bit stunned. So I picked up the thing that I need for... Hey, lockpicks. That I need to get into the temple in the Phantom Forest, but besides that...
Treasure on the ground. That...
Can't pick it. Book level 5. I wonder if you are able to pick it. Wait, I have that scroll still with me, right?
This better be worth the effort.
Treasure on the ground. Who that can't... Treasure on the... That carnivorous farm. Treasure on the... That con... Treasure on... Treasure on that con...
I thought by unlocking it you would be able to circumvent the dialogue, but apparently that's not a thing. Kind of a waste of that scroll. That's weird.
Treasure on the ground. Who's the grandest? What a...
But... I mean, there are only 3 options.
Treasure on the ground. I suppose it... Treasure, that... Treasure... What? That can't...
Maybe I need to find a piece of information that potentially unlocks a 4th dialogue option? Why can you cast unlock lock on it, though, if that's not actually how you do it. Like, what? Yeah, I'm a little bit stumped by the mirror, honestly. I feel like there would have to be a thing that activates this mirror specifically. But, I mean... Huh. That could really be anywhere, right? That looks very... strange. Should I bring my other characters up here? I don't think that I can teleport behind these doors, right? Because that would be quite ridiculous. Can I cast this on myself? I don't know, it's a bit overkill, but then again, I'm not gonna utilize these anyways. Yeah. I guess it was successful. Okay, let's see. Yeah. It actually counts as a wall, right? The magical door, that is. It would be pretty ridiculous if that wasn't the case. Being able to just circumvent this with teleport would be pretty cheap indeed. Oh. Wait, what? Why was I able to step on that? Do those mines react differently to certain characters for some reason? Well, that's strange then. Could try to increase my perception, but... just doesn't really look like there's anything else going on here, right? I mean, doesn't look like there's any sort of... I mean, I know that there's still that one button downstairs that I haven't touched yet. So maybe by going in that room, we're somehow able to get past this stuff? I mean, that's really the only thing that's left, right? Which is pretty annoying because that means that I have to go back through that, through the steam or the stunning cloud. Journal, Druid's personal. I wonder where that leads, by the way, because that should, in theory, lead to the end of time, right? But if I go to the end of time. I don't think that there is a portal that has just opened up there. That would be very strange, right? If there would have just been a portal that... I mean, I don't really know, though. I have to say, you know, the more the game progresses, these puzzle pieces... they're never really that great, because they always just demand of you to find that one thing, like the one button or lever or scroll, and that allows you to get through it, right? It's not really, you don't have to think. It's literally just look for that one thing, and if you find it, you get through it. If you don't, then you're kind of screwed. There is no clever way to circumvent these doors. At least I don't think there is. So it's quite a bit unfortunate. I just wish that they would have maybe thought about it a bit more. Yeah, the issue down here is that there really isn't a way to get past all this. I mean, sure, I can, you know, heal through it, technically, and still get everybody through. Honestly, a bunch of this stuff is also really, really counterintuitive. So you find the secret hatch, but it really just gives you loot, right? Because I would have expected that by finding the secret hatch, it would allow you to find another bit, right? That then told you about, hey, go stand there in order to deactivate the traps, or stand there in order to activate the mirror upstairs, right? It's a bit strange that there doesn't really seem to be a way to... What is that, by the way? Why is there this weird blue piece on the barrel? Because now I think that this chest might also just be loot. And there's a button on the wall to open this cupboard up to move to the side and then go there, but... But there has to be a way to be able to deactivate all this. Well, the master switch, certainly, but... So technically, I would be missing... maybe another amulet? Wait a second, maybe... Just need to remember to switch it back. Yeah, as I thought. So this specific amulet only really does something if you're in the Phantom Forest. It doesn't help you here. Thought it would maybe allow me to go through the doors or something, but nope. Maybe you could just turn on the candles. Are you kidding me? Okay. Well, I guess... I don't know. This is... Now I'm really, really torn on this, right? Because on the one hand... This is really cool. I like that they have these kinds of puzzles. But I wish there should have been... I don't know. There should have been a hint to it somewhere, right? I think... Because this is too random. Maybe you could argue that this is quite obvious, right? The candles are really the only thing you can interact with here. So, you know, try turning them on, maybe it'll work. All right, fair enough. But still, I think it's a bit obscure. I think it's a bit obscure because there might be those players that for some reason just don't think of this, right? I mean, this was just on a whim. I just looked at that and said, well, maybe it's the candles. But this is something you can easily miss. Very, very easily. And I don't really like that. I think... It would have been cool. Maybe there is... Maybe I actually missed the hint. that could also be the case, right? So I'm not always take this with under the assumption that I don't know everything about the game, right? Just as it's being presented to me, this just seems way too random. It's not really... The thing is, it's not a clever puzzle, right? It's not something that you discover, solve something, and then you can get through. It's literally just, oh, click on the right thing that just so happens to be the solution. I really, really wish that maybe, for example, that family in the cellar would have given us a hint, right? So maybe they could have said something along the lines of, oh yeah, Zandalor always talked about his love for candles, and he once told us, I don't know, that he likes the seasons, or that he likes winter over summer and autumn over spring. And then, you know, and then maybe the candles would have been sort of winter, one would have been winter themed and autumn themed. It's just, this is just off the top of my head. You could come up with all kinds of different puzzles, but just give you a hint, an actual puzzle, some sort of riddle to solve, and then you get in here and you see, oh, wait, there are candles, right? We've heard about that, right? And then it becomes an actual puzzle to solve, because this way it's also not really satisfying. I just clicked on something and it just randomly worked, right? That's not me solving anything. So I don't really get any sort of satisfaction out of having found the solution, because it wasn't a puzzle to begin with, right? I had quite hoped that the game would be doing more clever stuff as it goes on, but it starts off with fairly basic puzzles and then never really goes beyond that, which is completely fine, right? It's a sort of a... It's not really the focus of the game. It doesn't, you know, this is nothing against the game, or it's not making the game worse for me or anything. It's just a really, really big missed opportunity, I think, where they just could have done way, way more with it. But anyways. Boop. Let's actually look downstairs. Oh. But didn't turn this off. But for some reason it turned off the rest of the traps. That's really weird. Titan dictionary. What the hell is this? Oh, I wanted to read it. Wait. Read. The ancient tongue, conversing with Titans. Whoever holds this enchanted tome will be privy to that venerable language called the ancient tongue, still spoken by the Titans of Rivellon. Is that the first time we've heard something about Titans? Because I'm pretty sure it is. Alright. Thankfully this mine already exploded. Did everybody get experience for that? I hope so. Otherwise this would be quite annoying. Alright, let's finally turn this off.
The defense is shut down. The family should be able to get through here without a hitch.
Disabled the defenses in the wizard's house. The villagers can now pass safely. Well, hopefully we didn't also deactivate the stuff so that the orcs can come in. Alright, I think I really need to go over my equipment now. Hey, another one of those. Shira's power is remarkable and only growing stronger. One incantation can diminish a creature's suffering by half. No small feat when faced with a magic as deadly as Source. The charm's effects fade, but Shira's resolve does not. Ever am I drawn to healers, those remarkably powerful beings who turn their attention not to the pursuit of power, but of care. It is no wonder those first keepers granted the other rune to Shira herself. The gentle spirit would never turn the Source Temple toward dark ends. Either I'm missing something here, maybe I've forgotten about Shira? Who is that? Leandra. I have received word from her, and what's more, she wishes to see me. Why she chose Syseel's dang king crab inn for a meeting place, I cannot say. Alright, so this is going back to... What is that first entry about then? The thought of seeing those bright eyes and that impish grin once more grips my stomach with excitement and apprehension. 2 entire years without so much as a glimpse, a note. She made no inquiry after her sister except to say, "Do not tell Ikara. If it's wrong, but so be it." Oh no. I told Shira of my plans to see Leandra. Having been privy to the entire affair, she wished me good luck, but warned me to exercise caution. You don't know, dear Zandalor, what the girl's been up to, and you hardly left on good terms. It seems the eons have made our wise forest spirit suspicious and wary of good news. No wonder, considering all she's seen. Oh boy, so he really fell into the trap of... Well, I mean, I can see that. So he still loved, or still loves, Leandra as well. But to be entirely fair to him, right? I think up until that point, all he had really seen of Leandra was that she was, as far as we've been told, maybe a little bit difficult, right? She was maybe a bit too much driven by emotions, I think. But not necessarily a bad person, right? She turned bad because of being very, very jealous of her sister. Because she was the one Zandalor chose in the end. And... well, I think we heard that she was already quite impulsive before that, right? So I guess she was very susceptible to giving into her emotions. So in that regard, maybe Zandalor, even though in retrospect it seems pretty, well, pretty dumb, right? That he would just meet up with her, considering what she's doing currently and everything she still plans on doing and has already done and did over the course of those 2 years. But again, if you know a person or knew a person for a very long time, I don't think you would necessarily expect that they change so much over the course of 2 years, right? And she's done, well, not really a 180, because she, knowing what we know now, it's somewhat understandable what she went through. But yeah, from his perspective, I can definitely understand why he wouldn't maybe suspect anything. Right? But apparently this forest spirit very much did suspect a lot, and yeah. Well, interesting. Let's take this with us, I think. Oh, yeah, already looked into this. This is empty. All right, let's quickly look downstairs. So everything's turned off. Thankfully, this is still active, which is really, really good. Okay, let's get the party back together for now. I very much need to look through my inventory anyways at one point. So I picked up everything up here. I do want to go back downstairs to pick up the rest of the stuff. Also, just one last thing about this quote-unquote puzzle. It also makes it seem a bit, I guess, in-universe. Well, okay, so I should preface this with games in general have a problem here, right? Because you have to make it look like these puzzles are really, really intricate, because they're actually supposed to be good defenses, right? So these are supposed to well, defend essentially against any kind of danger you could think of, right? So they should be incredibly elaborate and intricate, right? And we I guess there are books with the characters, but that's, you know, if you write a book, obviously the main characters will eventually figure it out because, well, the whoever's writing the book wants them to, right? So they might also stumble on the correct solution or something like that. But when you're designing a video game, obviously the player somehow needs to be able to solve the puzzle. And you don't know who the player is, so it needs to, you know, sort of average out. Your average audience member or your average player needs to be able to solve these puzzles. So you can't make them too complicated or too intricate or rely on information the person playing the game might not have, right? So that's definitely a conundrum that doesn't really have any sort of solution. So I guess just because of that, puzzles can never be quite as intricate as they technically should be in universe, right? Which is fine. You can suspend your disbelief a little bit and say, well, you know, it still needs to be solvable by the player, but obviously within you, in the actual universe, it would be quite a bit more complicated. That's completely fine. But having puzzles like these, where you literally just need to turn on a bunch of candles, or light a bunch of candles, yeah, that's not really that great, is it? Any idiot could do this. So I guess you'd have to go through all the traps first, but still, right? It's really... It just doesn't seem like a quote-unquote puzzle or safety mechanism a super intelligent, super powerful wizard would come up with, right? You'd think that it would be way more complicated than this. So it definitely has this weird element of the sort of, I guess, story and lore pieces not really fitting together with the actual things you are doing, right? But anyways, let's take another look downstairs and just see if... I definitely already looked at this corner. Did I read this book already? Pretty sure I did. Not here, but somewhere else. It's just a cookbook. I do find it weird that the hatch with the cellar is also just it's just there, right? You can get a bunch of loot and that's it. I would have thought that there would have been... See, that's where you could have placed another hint, right? I mean, the individual hints don't necessarily need to be too complicated, but if you put a bunch of them together, it at least makes it seem like it's quite a bit more intricate than it actually is, right? That would have been pretty cool, actually. But for some reason they didn't do it, or maybe I missed it. Maybe there actually was some sort of scroll or hint in the cellar that told you about the candles upstairs and I just didn't see it. Could be it. Would be pretty funny. I don't know. I still think that I got insanely lucky here with just accidentally finding the solution. I don't know. Did I actually find this book at some point? In the event of the Divine One's return. I might have read this already. Let's go through it again. According to prophecy, the Divine One will lead our people into a better world. But what will this new world look like? I've read nearly all texts regarding Reuben Farrell, the author of the prophecy, and the more I study his words, the more inconsistencies I find. What kind of person would this Divine One be? Will every living being see his vision for the new world, or will the Divine One select individuals? Yeah, I think, didn't we find this in Astartes Temple or something? According to prophecy, the Divine One will destroy all evil. How can lovers of creation advocate for the destruction? Can the Divine One really distinguish between good and evil, or will he choose what is evil according to a preset moral code? Yeah, we've definitely already read this somewhere. Which, you know, the more the game goes on, I think that we are actually some sort of weird reincarnation of a divine one, potentially. I don't know. It very much feels like that. Oh! Wait, what? The entire plate is what activates the traps? Okay, now I really don't understand why not all the traps went off in the beginning. Maybe I got insanely lucky and nobody actually stood on the entire plate when we teleported out of the portal? Or maybe because we loaded in, it somehow didn't actually consider the plate as being pressed or something? But it did activate the flying fireballs, it just didn't activate the traps on the floor for some reason. And then when I went into the cellar and came back out, I think somebody stood over here or something. Or maybe I just slightly moved and somebody stood over there. Very, very strange. Alright, what else do we have here? It's a potion bottle. Pick that up. Bunch of gold. Yeah, those aren't. Interesting that this still doesn't open up. Because I was just wondering if you can accidentally let the orcs in here too. And then they would be super surprised. Wait, what are you doing? How did you get into the house? Can't reach? Really? Wait, that's small. Oh.
Ooh!
Ooh! That's part of the staff kit. Okay. Holy shit. Alright. Yeah, I definitely need to go through my inventory now. Alright, let's tell the family real quick, right? That they can escape. Hi, Crimson. Barrel basket chest, this room is everything. Yeah, it has indeed. And I'm still, I still can't believe that everything actually survived the traps and everything being on fire, but I guess, I don't know, it doesn't actually count for the HP of the chairs or something.
Make yourself at home for the present. We haven't much to offer, but my wife can tell you plenty about the wizard.
Oh, wait, I think I need to talk to his wife, right? She was the one who originally talked to us? Wait, that's the daughter.
Our friend.
There we go.
How can we help you? Oh, yes, let's! Have you cleared a path to Zandalor's shrine? We're so very eager to get out of this dank little hole.
Oh. To his shrine. Well, we've deactivated all the traps in the house. Maybe I should have looked at the teleporter before telling them? It should be fine, right? Fantasy Fire is extremely selective about what it burns. That's very true. Nothing pre-rendered, yeah. That's... Pre-rendered stuff is definitely has some other kind of invulnerability going on. It's just funny because the chairs have an HP bar for some reason, and they even get the burning buff or rather debuff symbol, but for some reason they don't actually burn. Maybe they don't have an animation for going up into ashes or something. I don't know. Wait. It also would have made it impossible for them to place stuff in the house, right? If it all just burned down as soon as you get there, because you will activate the traps, obviously, but... Oh well. Anyways, let's tell them. They should be able to go to the teleporter. It would be weird if the teleporter then leads to some other dangerous place. I don't think that'll happen, so...
Great gods above! That's fantastic news! I can nearly smell the fresh air already. Psst. Before we go, I might be able to offer you a little tip. When I was cleaning the wizard's guest rooms, I'd often hear him whisper Ikara to a locked chest in his chamber.
There we go.
I can't say for certain what's in there, but perhaps it will help you on your journey. Thank you for your aid, my hero.
Well, now I feel bad for giving up that unlock scroll on the chest. I mean, isn't it obvious that it would be Ikara's name? Considering the question the chest gives... whatever. At least now I get the stuff that's in it. So this is done. We helped the villagers escape into the cellar portal. Nice. You other 3 random people. Well, technically, 2 other random... It's a bit weird, right? You have the 2 main characters, but you're always... They never really address you as 2 people. Okay, they're not here. Got all that stuff. Let's talk to the chest again. There we go.
Treasure, treasure on the ground. Who's the grandest dame in town?
Well, Ikara.
Aren't you a dear? What is it you like best about that lovely lady? The sweet cadence of her voice? Her fair grace? The whole package has impressed you, I do suppose. Well chosen indeed.
How can it just be sentient like this? Right? Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a sort of a... almost like a pre-recorded message. Because otherwise, couldn't it just tell whether or not it's Zandalor himself who opens it up? Ah, there we go. It's not even really stuff that I need. Ah, well, whatever. Ah. Too much to carry. I really, really need to sort through my inventory again. That's gonna take a bunch of time, I fear. Also, still have this unused bloodstone shard. I feel like there has to be a quest that utilizes it still, but... Probably just recordings, yeah. Some sort of magical recording. Guess that definitely makes more sense. Well, these ones I'm gonna sell anyways. I'm always impressed how the individual stuff really doesn't even weigh that much. And I'm still over-encumbered all the time just because there's so much stuff that you can get here. Okay, chain lightning. I should probably give further lightning stuff as well, because my main has that anyways. Immune to that. I can keep that. This stuff I will keep because Lillian has it, and then the fire stuff she will get. Because I have it. I'm going to keep the witchcraft stuff and the ice stuff. Right. And then let's send over the arrows to the right person as well. Should work for now. That would have been incredibly funny if they actually made it so that you can properly talk to the chest. Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate that they force you to get the right solution first, right? Without being able to figure that out yourself. I mean, it's a very obvious solution in this particular case, so if they would have just given you the dialogue option of Ikara in the first place, then it would have been very, very obvious and would have been easy to solve. Would have definitely been more fun if you actually had a chance to somehow convince the chest that you're saying the right thing. Oh, and Cyberpunk, yeah. Inventory management is always such a chore. Well, Cyberpunk was especially strange with their whole setup of... Because they didn't have... Did they even introduce that? I think they did at some point, right? Because in the beginning it didn't have any sort of way to just look cool. Because the stuff that had the higher stats on it sometimes just looked completely ridiculous, right? That would have also been incredible. Yeah. Just asking questions that it's completely flustered by and doesn't know anything, it doesn't know how to answer anymore, and it just gives up the correct answer somehow. Definitely a bit of a missed opportunity there. But then again, it's just a nice little chest here. Yeah, well, although it's definitely... Even as simple as it is, it's almost more intricate than the weird candle solution to opening up the mirror. Alright, let's see where this leads. Oh wait, it's literally just a normal waypoint shrine. Huh. Neat. So I guess it just looks different. I always thought that up until now these... with the sort of the waypoint shrines with the hands were something more specific, or I guess they are a bit different, but then they're also the same as the other ones. Oh well. Well, they did introduce a glam system. Well, that's good, at least. I thought I read about that. I did keep up with some of the patch notes and stuff that they released, but not everything really. Epic torn shirt, okay. Yeah, that's a bit... You know, I really wish they wouldn't do the... sort of the stuff where whatever the piece looks like is completely detached from the actual stats that it has. I wish there would be more of a... Well, I don't know, maybe... There is probably some sort of system behind it, but... yeah, I would definitely be... Because I was always a fan of not having transmog-like systems in games. I always thought that it was pretty cool that you had to make a choice. I mean, Monster Hunter had been like that for a long time. They did introduce some stuff to World later on, where you could also sort of glamour over the pieces that you were wearing. But I personally always thought that it's like Fashion Souls, right? Or I guess in Bloodborne and whatever. People also select the stuff that they're wearing based on looks as well as stats. And I always thought that that was a very cool way of doing it, where you could find like a sweet spot between looks and stats. And it was always, at least for me, it was always great to find a really, really cool gear piece. And it had a... Because it also... I think it makes you more creative, right? If you have a specific gear piece that comes with, I don't know, some sort of specific skill, resistance, or buff to magic, whatever. And then you want to wear that particular piece, but obviously it needs to work as a set, and it needs to make sense with what you're doing. So you try to build around it, right? I always liked that idea of finding a weapon or whatever gear piece and then building a set around it based on what one of the gear pieces had. And obviously that just doesn't exist if you can look however you want to. and it be completely separate from the stats. But obviously that also depends on how the game implements these systems, what kind of stats there are to begin with. Do they even correspond to what the gear looks like, right? There's all kinds of other stuff that's attached to that, but I definitely enjoy the idea of combining both way more than just being able to clamor or transmog over it. But obviously with how ridiculous it was in Cyberpunk, the solution of just allowing the player to look however they want to makes way more sense in a game like that. Specifically because you can also come up with the idea of, well, you know, it's very technically advanced, so they would probably be able to just develop t-shirts that can also serve as a bulletproof vest, right? It's not not mutually exclusive, I guess. Baseball bat with weirdly amazing stats. Well, that's at least some, I guess, a bit of a hybrid system of what I just mentioned, right? Which can also work. It always depends on the game. It's just crazy to me that they did. Well, I guess they probably just didn't have the time to implement a proper system. I very much think they originally wanted to. Then again, The Witcher 3 does not have that, right? It's another one of those weird things where me specifically in Witcher 3, I only changed my outfit like 3 times maybe over the course of the entire game. And it was only to the specific Witcher armor pieces that you can find through the quests, right, that give you their locations. I never wore those weird-looking, you know, soldier armor pieces that you just randomly find. I thought that didn't fit with Geralt's appearance at all, and I don't know. It's one of those things where it almost makes the game less immersive, because Geralt, it's very unlikely that he would wear that, right? I mean, he has specific Witcher gear. Why would he just wear some random soldier clothing that he found from a dead soldier? I don't know. Well, so we helped them escape. What am I doing next, though? I guess that's the house done for now. The people that are standing on the outside don't really know what we did here. We have the waypoint shrine. Maybe... Oh, right. I should probably tell the cat that I helped the people escape, huh? Let's see. I think I'm just gonna go back the way I came. What are you doing here, by the way? Why aren't you going anywhere?
Am I... Is this real?
Glam system works better when you can't see. In Witcher 3, the look of your armor is an indicator of your current stats. Well, is it really? Kind of, yeah. With the Witcher gear. Not with the other stuff, right? It's a very... I don't know why they chose to make you even... Why you were able to equip the random soldier gear. Overuse of braids? Fluffy, I do, yeah. That was a cat that, for the longest time, I had no idea how or what was going on. That was... I had a lot of theories, but... did I actually... Well, I guess I didn't really know what was going on, or I didn't completely figure it out until all the way to the end, but... There are, like, 2 cats, right? The cat Fluffy's based on still exists, if I remember correctly, so you sometimes have the non-fluffy version of the cat in the scene, and sometimes it's actually Fluffy, and Yeah, it's really, really well done. Okay, I already talked to this cat. I thought that she would flee together with the family, but I guess not. What's going on with you, buddy? Maybe she... Maybe something happens when I talk to the other cat that gave me the quest to begin with. He was very dedicated indeed.
Is this one of them fancy scribble pages? Never did trust them myself.
Is this the right way? It is. Man, 13 Sentinels is so crazy good. Thinking back on it. It also just constantly keeps you on your toes, right? I think I said that when I played through it, but the amount of work that just must have gone into the game in terms of making sure that you never get the full picture, and it's always... I don't even know how they did that, because it's such a crazy amount of scenes as well. And then it's not even linear, right? The player can decide, at least to a certain degree, when they do what. And to make sure that it always works, no matter how the player chooses to do it. And it just keeps you completely in the dark, but then sometimes gives you these which sometimes seems incredibly obvious hints as well, right? And as the game goes on, you then start to question everything, and you I don't know, even with very obvious things, it actually does the opposite, right? To where you think, well, if it's this obvious, that's probably not the correct solution. It really, yeah, I've never seen any game quite like it, and it's such a unique thing. I haven't really looked into any sort of developer interviews, stuff like that, so I would still be incredibly interested to see how it all came together, or how they even came up with it to begin with. I always wanted to go back to it for a little bit, because I actually haven't done so I've played all the way through it, right? Got the ending scene, but it unlocks like additional battles that you can do after the main story is done. I always wanted to go back and do those. Maybe that would be a good time to also look at, I don't know, developer interviews, things like that. Ooh, yeah, I can see that with the order of the story. It's a bit of an issue. Well, it's hard to avoid, right? If you want to set it up to where the player has some choice. I thought that it was pretty well done. But yeah, that might be dependent on the way I played through it. I've seen that. Well, it sometimes... I think it sometimes becomes obvious when you also watch streams of certain games. I haven't really watched streams of 13 Sentinels, but it was definitely a thing that I saw happen with AI Somnium Files, right? Where there is a choice very early on that completely determines what kind of half of the game you do first. And, you know, through watching a couple of streams of it, a lot of people in chat always recommended one of the paths over the other. I don't really think that it matters. Like, your experience with the game can be a really, really good one either way. But it definitely completely changes a lot of things, and how you will perceive a lot of things, right? And what kind of speculations you would come up with. I don't know. It's a tough choice, because it's very, very cool to allow the player to have that. But on the other hand, you can never play a game like that again for the first time, right? So fundamentally altering how certain people can experience it is it's difficult, right? Because depending on who the player is and what kind of preferences they have, maybe they actually don't enjoy the game that much because they chose wrong. And then it feels bad once they realize, oh, I could have gone an entirely different route, and maybe I would have enjoyed it way more that way. It's a very, very tough thing. But then at the end of the day, a game like 13 Sentinels specifically, I mean, that's one of its unique aspects, and changing that, I don't know, making it more linear to begin with, might have made it more boring as well. Well, so you have watched quite a few interviews about it. We are so very, very tired. That's such so many, especially Japanese developers are always, God, I mean, as somebody who plays a lot of Final Fantasy XIV and constantly seeing Yoshi P just being, he looks like he barely gets 2 hours of sleep every night. I think he, you know, half his face is, you know, sleeping bags under his eyes. So I wish that really wouldn't be part of, you know, game development. But then at the end of the day, as somebody who, you know, codes himself and also does that thing, you know, the best work you sometimes do when you're just sitting there for 14 or 16 hours and just, I don't know, sometimes you're just in the zone, right? And just do it, and then you have other days where nothing happens. I mean, that's part of it, right? Because it definitely also, it's not just work that, especially in game development, it must be, you know, sometimes you are in that creative state where it just sort of flows right out of your hands. I mean, probably the same with writing as well. And sometimes just nothing happens for days on end, right? There are certain techniques how to get past that, or how to, I guess, schedule that a bit better, but at the end of the day, it's never really fully possible to control. And also, in terms of those interviews, it's a bit unfortunate that I feel like Japanese developers specifically also don't, they very rarely allow sort of full behind the scenes looks at their development process, compared to, I guess, Western developers are way more open to that sort of thing. And so yeah, it's just the information available as to how they actually come up with this stuff is very rarely really all that interesting, which is a shame, because I would really like to know more about, you know, specifics actually about the whatever process, creative process was behind 13 Sentinels when they developed it. It's more visibly rewarding, yeah. It's very, in terms of 13 Sentinels, it's very, very interesting because the game maybe is actually quite a bit more linear than it first seems, I think. I mean, they certainly put very specific blocks in very specific at very specific points, so that information doesn't get revealed before they want to reveal it, which I personally liked. It's one of those interesting cases where it might actually seem more branching and more complicated than at the very end it turns out to be. I think they've done it in a pretty good way, but then again, it's very, very difficult to fully to really fully think about that, because you will always only have one first playthrough, right? Even if I were to go back and play it, I don't know, 5 more times, I still wouldn't be able to really, I guess, appreciate the other routes all that much. I don't know. It's very, very difficult to review, I guess. World of Horror, I have not seen that. Stardew Valley I have. I've played quite a bit of Stardew Valley. Probably about I don't know, 80 to 100 hours, something like that. But that's also crazy. Haven't they done... Was it on the... what's the channel called? The YouTube channel that does the Patreon-funded game documentaries. NoClip. I think... Was it NoClip that did a documentary on Stardew Valley? Because it's one of those other things where it's incredible what one person can do when they're fully dedicated to that. But on the other hand, there was definitely also a sort of a, I guess, note of sadness with it, where they, I don't know, it's also just years and years of a person's life that, you know, that doesn't really allow for anything else to happen on the sidelines. I mean, at the end of the day, the end product can be really quite amazing, and considering how many people then go on to enjoy it, maybe it's in that regard, right, that one person can create so much joy in so many people is really quite lovely to see. But on the other hand, you know, thinking about how much that might take away from their life as well, definitely a difficult choice. I mean, obviously they love their work, otherwise they wouldn't do it, but still, it's that's one of those things where, I don't know, people can sometimes overdo it, I guess. And at the same time, lots of people spend years and years doing nothing much at all. Yeah, although that's not really necessarily their fault, right? Sometimes you also just need to be at the right place at the right time to start a process like this, right? Just because, I mean, for example, Stardew Valley, it also came out of, I think, his love for the Harvest Moon games, right? So if for some reason they had been born just a bit later or a bit earlier, or maybe for some reason they didn't have access to those games, or, you know, it might have never happened. So it's an almost incredibly random whether or not somebody actually has the opportunity to do something like that. Which is also kind of sad to think about, that it's so dependent on a billion different factors you can't influence at all. But I guess that's life, right?
Is this one of them fancy scribble pages? Never did trust it myself.
Every person who's played the entire game will have seen all the same ending things. Yeah, it's... That thing with the order really is difficult. I guess if you were try to really analyze that, you'd probably have to dig through... I mean, that's the thing, right? There are so many possibilities there, even though it does specifically create those block points, but still... I mean, in order to properly quantify that, you probably have to go through at least, I don't know, 100 playthroughs. And even then, it could only serve as a sort of a baseline for what an experience could be. And then maybe, you know, if you were trying to take a little bit more of a scientific approach, right? You probably have to look at, yeah, roughly 100 playthroughs and then try to categorize them a little bit. And then once you have sort of a basic overview about what maybe broad category specific playthroughs would fall in, then you could try to look more in depth at even more playthroughs and see what kind of specific points influence the players in specific ways. Honestly, think about it, that sounds like a pretty interesting study. Not one that would be worth anything much to most people, I think. But it could be a very interesting insight into game development. Yeah, I wonder if that would be... But the thing is, that would be the amount of hours of work you'd have to put into something like that. And at the end of the day, in order to really get a somewhat representative picture, you'd probably have to go through at least 500 to 1,000 playthroughs, if that's even possible, considering. And then, I don't know, there would be a whole bunch of other factors to consider. And I don't even know what the end result of something like that could be. I mean, at the end of the day, you still only really look at one game, right? It would be incredible, almost impossible to derive any knowledge from that for other games or game development in general. So to know if a study like that would even be worth it. But it's interesting to think about, I guess. Well, the good playthroughs and evil playthroughs, yeah, it's an entirely different thing, right? Because it's also, I don't know, with 13 Sentinels, it's, I guess it's a lot more about, it's a bit more passive, right? It's more the experience, I guess, the reaction to have what's being presented to you. Whereas a good or evil playthrough of a game is your own choice. And something that's also, for the most part, being made very, very obvious in most games. It's almost more like you're playing two different versions of the same game, rather than, I don't know, the because 13 Sentinels would still be the exact same. I don't know. It's an interesting comparison, though. Because now I'm wondering how you could maybe. Because I always thought that most of those good versus evil playthroughs and stuff, they're way too obvious in most cases. At least for me. I still enjoy that they exist, but they're very, very obvious, right? They're just this very. Oh yeah, you either can be good or evil, and that's it. And taking this more reactionary approach, where you don't make it obvious to the player. I mean, I know that games have already done that as well, or tried to do it. It's never really turned out that well, I feel like. But to try to incorporate what 13 Sentinels did into a more, well, let's say a Star Wars game where you can be either Jedi or Sith, but make it in the same way as 13 Sentinels, where you don't know what's going on and you have to make choices based on the information you currently have, and it might completely change later on. It'd be very, very interesting, but I think that would be even more complicated to accomplish because, well, you always run the risk of the player making a choice that they definitely did not want to make. And even though the whole thing with, you know, living with the consequences of it is a thing, at the end of the day, it's still a game and needs to be enjoyable. And if you constantly present the player with the problem of, you know, oh, hey, by the way, you made the wrong choice, but you didn't know better, it can feel quite bad. Ain't
there something behind here?
Yeah, and those first experiences, it's sad that you can't get that back, right? It's only one first playthrough, but again, that also makes it so magical. BioWare has definitely done. Well, they just had very good writing, right? They sometime in the past. I mean, it's a long time ago, but it was just written fairly well, and so by that, it by default wasn't just black or white, right? Because they actually thought through what they were writing. It wasn't the crap that, I don't know, Assassin's Creed puts in their games, or Ubisoft rather, but sort of the Marvel writing, as it's referred to nowadays.
Is this one of them fancy scribble pages?
But it's still, I mean, I feel like they still always try to make it Like, I don't think that you'd be presented with something that you don't really want. Or rather, it was always still,
Ain't there something behind here?
in terms of gameplay, I wouldn't say an obvious choice, but it's just not how decisions get made naturally, I guess, right? It's still sort of a gamified version of what decision making looks like. And by that, I don't know, it's still a bit... It's both good and bad because it's bad in the sense that it's a bit unnatural, but it's good in the sense that for the player, you know, it's a bit more obvious and you can't run into this predicament of the player suddenly having an experience that they didn't want to have. Yes. Yeah, that's also just in general. That's something especially with evil characters, I think, where it's always that's the one thing where you can actually see good writing when they think about, well, oh, this guy's not just evil, but there is a reason behind it, right? And that then automatically creates this entire spectrum, right? Because, well, obviously they would all be different and they have their different reasons for why the way they are. And yeah, it just makes it way more interesting than, oh, evil guy's evil because, well, we need an enemy, I guess. Which is why I think it's so sad that we get that so often these days, right? I'm saying these days, it was always present, but it's always sad to see that, especially when it's an IP that you care about personally and they just don't put any effort in. Because I feel like, well, I'm not saying that it's easy to write good villains or anything, but just, you know, as you just mentioned with Knights of the Old Republic, just trying to think about it a little bit more logically, right? If you create a character, just asking simple questions like, well, why are they evil, right? Why have they become the person they are? There has to be a reason behind it, right? And then actually coming up with the reason might already lead into other questions, like, okay, this character became evil for this reason, but wouldn't that also mean that there would have been other characters who opposed them, right? And then from that point, you'd realize, suddenly have two different people, but they are still both evil because they're clearly still opposing, I guess, the good side, while at the same time also having completely different motivations for why they're doing things, right? And just really asking these simple questions makes it way more interesting than what other... And I never get why so many pieces of entertainment actually just don't ask these questions, seemingly. Or don't put that effort in, but then they pay, I don't know, well, in case of movies, they pay effect studios $200 million to create a scene that, you know, doesn't serve any purpose because nobody has ever asked the simple question of, well, why is the guy even doing that, right? But let's just spend a couple $100 million on a cool special effect. Because we can, I guess. Well,
Again, do you bring good news?
I do. But I guess I can't tell you.
They've survived this carnage so far by concealing themselves most cleverly. Savages, but you're not like the brute. They must be squashed, every last...
Why can I not tell the cat that I saved the servants? Well, maybe I have to get rid of the rats first, because she talks about the rat? Nah, well.
Ain't there something behind here?
Yeah, there's quite a few talking cats in this game. And other talking animals. Yeah, I wonder, do I have to get rid of the rats too? It's a bit weird that... Do we have... do we still have the quest? Armory key. Cordelia? Startress Flowers. Distill my heart. That's the barman. That's the knight's tomb thingy. That's the main quest. Well, that's unfortunate. I mean, maybe the cat gets new dialogue once I've done everything here. I thought I was able to tell, because the cat is the one that gives you the quest to begin with, that you should look for those, for Zandalor's servants and make sure that they're fine. I guess I can't tell her that we saved them. Just make me wonder if I should look for them somewhere else. Like, where did they even go?
I need to dry off.
What should I even do next? But I have the amulet to get into the Phantom Forest. So I could go there, look for the Source Temple, but that will most likely advance the main story, right? I wonder if I... Especially the stuff with the armory, I kind of want to deal with.
My kingdom for a dry shirt!
I could... One thing that I could try, at least, is talk to Arhu. He should still be in front of the city here.
Then why not stand up and face me?
Electrical weapon during a rainstorm? Yeah. Kinda like in Breath of the Wild. Hey, you are hit by lightning when you're wearing metal.
I'm warm as fresh apple pie.
That's pretty cool. Although, on the other hand, maybe having a lightning weapon will mean that you're actually shielded? Could also be a thing.
Source Hunter, welcome, welcome.
Okay. Pretty sure that I already asked him about all of this.
He has a resident. Know that nevertheless, his house is the
Yeah, he just gives you tips. He doesn't actually
Toasty!
react to what I've already done. Then again, I definitely feel like I'm still missing a bunch of stuff here.
There's still meat on those bones. Must have been the miller's boy. Muscles strong as marble he had.
Well, that's interesting. The blood is even on the map. The blood from the person who was apparently killed, or at least heavily injured. The person that was guarding the armory.
Two little eyes. All smashed to
Blood's
bits
on the
against
map, but you need higher perception to find it to begin with. It's pretty funny. I'm just wondering, should I try to go back into the Knight's Temple? Oh my god, that's how the...
Ruptured, trampled.
How big is this damn Phantom Forest? Holy hell. Just realized how little of the map I've discovered at this point. Cartographers are very keen to detail, yeah. Seems like they are. I wish I would have looked at this before I discovered the blood. Because I don't think that these maps ever change. Or react. At least I haven't seen that so far. Because that would be quite weird if they would be on the map, but you actually need to discover them yourself. Ah, well, it's not like it's difficult to discover them though. Oh, have a great rest of your day if you're dipping out. Yeah. Thanks for being here and chatting. Always a pleasure. I really need to... Man, I want to do more in this village. I don't know how. I don't really... The one thing that I could do is the whole whiskey bit. I think I would be able to help the bartender if I somehow or crafted more whiskey, but...
There's still meat on those bones. Must have been the miller's boy. Muscles strong as marble he had.
And a part of me really wants to try to fight those weird statues again. It would be really funny if I were able to get through them. Just sort of on my own. The problem is it would be really, really difficult to do. And probably very... Well, it could be very annoying because if I do, like, one wrong move, they would probably immediately kill me. Actually, I'm gonna go back to the entrance of the house for a bit. To Zandalor's house, I mean. And just see if the guys in front of it react to it. Well, technically, they shouldn't know about what we did inside. But I guess it doesn't hurt to talk to them again. And then there's still the quest with Cordelia and everything. And the rat catcher.
What are you doing? You didn't go around here anyway. Holy heat! So to the skin, eh? What a stupid... Hey, come to his orders. I'm dripping.
That was a very strange voice line from Medora. Yeah, I'm dripping. Didn't even really sound like her. I wonder if Zandalor may have... Considering all the enchantments around his house, maybe he has created some sort of good weather bubble? Because the difference is quite stark between the rain in the village and sunny bits up here.
Ah! A human? By the blood blessing of Jarl, I bid you...
Okay, I don't think we can...
What you want now?
Do you have any leads regarding where the servants may be hiding?
Matilda seems to believe they're in a hidden cellar somewhere, but we haven't found a lick of a hint as to where the damn thing might be.
Alright, I've already talked to him about this. I also don't think that I can...
Perhaps, once we find and skin the buggers, that priestess can turn them into undead workers fast enough to save the gold.
Because I just thought it would have been pretty cool if we could utilize the fact that they've now escaped to our advantage, right? Because, well, they don't know that we've helped them escape. So if I were to go to Grutilda, for example, and just tell her, hey, by the way, we found the secret cellar, but it was empty, technically it would raise our... or in her mind, we would be seen as even more of an accomplished immaculate, I guess. But I don't think that we can do that. I don't think I will be able to get into her... Oh. Ah, I just realized. When I told Grutilda about the guy that was selling the Tenebrium weapons, well, I wanted to see what she did to him, right? So I followed her outside and I saw the whole bit of her, like, killing him and then he got hung. But that's the one time she's actually out of the house, right? Or out of the tavern. So that would have probably been the point where I could have snuck into her cellar without being seen. Guess I missed that opportunity. I don't think that now there is any other way to do that. Ah, man, what's so aggravating about this is that I really want to set these guys up, right? I want to make them fight each other, but I feel like I might still be missing a hint here. Which, considering the weird candle puzzle in Zandalor's house, you just never quite know whether or not you just missed some sort of obvious hint. For example, a hint to get through that night temple somehow. That again, considering how huge that Phantom Forest seems to be, maybe there are other things there that I could do that would allow me to get through this. Oh man, I I know that the Phantom Force definitely is the next thing that I need to be doing, but I just don't want to... I don't want to immediately continue with that. Hunter's Edge is just way too interesting in terms of the interactions you can have here. But... wait a second, let me quick save. What happens if I enter this first room? Because technically I turned off all the traps, right?
It seems that Trab's been walked right into one of the wizard's traps.
Let's prove wiser than him, shall we?
Nope, there's still traps here for some reason. Alright. Well...
A stitch in time, eh, my friends?
oh, a fire's already gone.
My life is ebbing away.
I almost killed Berdotta again. Sometimes it's really, really aggravating how long it takes to cast spells and whatnot, because it might take way too long to heal up.
I feel better already.
Guess I just blew up a bunch of stuff. Well, thankfully the
I feel better already.
that magical door is still here, so they wouldn't be able to get into the house even if they wanted to now. But that being said, we looted the entire place already, so... which they don't know about. Hold on. Oh. The String Enthusiast, Volume 3. Arrow shaft. Wait, did they try to shoot some stuff with arrows here? What the hell? This candle holder doesn't do anything. Good to know. Just a random arrowhead. I guess maybe that was in the box here. Okay, so we can just enter this room, but that's it seems. Very strange.
Baking like a cake.
Do they not care that we can just enter this house without anything happening, or?
What you want now?
That's... I wish they would have reacted to that a little bit. Ah, well. Guess it's fine. I really don't want to continue going into the Phantom Forest. I could technically also go back to Silver Glen and maybe do those Immaculate Trials. Because I feel like I've missed out on that bit. I mean, I know that I did it on purpose, but still. Did I try the temple again? If I had at least a hint as to how you can deal with those stone statues. But then again, maybe if I just try to fight them, maybe I can find their weakness or something. Huh.
I've got my eye on you.
It's also just still very strange considering how they have set up this entire, well, the entire village really. From the very beginning, right? You're very much encouraged to, I guess, sow strife between the orcs and the warriors and somehow get them to fight each other. But the more time I spent here, the more difficult it seems to do that. Because, well, everything that's happened so far, a lot has happened, but nothing has really led to any sort of bigger reveal or thing that we would be able to do. I'm running out of ideas here. The problem is also that my eyes hurt a little bit. As much as I want to continue playing, I think it might be a better choice to stop here. And that might also give me some time before the next stream to think about how I want to continue. Because I really, really, really don't know. I don't know what I want to do next. Because if I would just follow the main story, I feel like I've already run past quite a few opportunities to do some side content. So, and I don't want to keep doing that. Yeah. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to stop here for today. I know it's a bit of a short stream. I apologize for it, but yeah, my eyes really giving me a hard time today. And well, there is another stream this evening anyways, because we will be going back into Dragonsong's Reprise in Final Fantasy XIV. So let me wrap it up here. Let's actually do a proper save. This time, remember to save over the other save slot, the one that's further back. Yeah. Should be... there we go. Just double check. I'm still incredibly suspicious, right? Since I've been playing RPGs, right? RPG video games, that is. I'm still suspicious of them not saving correctly for some reason. I don't know. I feel like, older games, we could get stuck on certain pieces, or sometimes it just wouldn't save correctly. Just have kind of burnt me out on that. And even though it's so long, I would actually have to think, when was the last time that I properly had to utilize... Well, I guess it must have been Witcher 3, right? When it originally released. I think it had like 1 or 2 quests that didn't properly work, where you actually had to go back and load a previous save. But I'm pretty sure that was the last time that actually happened. And since then, I've been fine. But then again, I also didn't play, or rather stopped playing Cyberpunk very early on because I was so disappointed with it. Which I still want to go back to someday, but as you can see, Divinity, I knew that it was a fairly expansive and pretty good RPG when I started playing it, but I definitely didn't expect it to become what will probably be a 250-hour playthrough or something. But anyways, that will be it for now, sadly. As I said, I definitely need to rest my eyes a little bit. It's just not that great of a day for me today. That being said, we will be returning to Final Fantasy XIV this evening in a couple of hours for some re-clears of Dragonsong's Reprise. Hopefully we'll be able to get... Well, I'm hoping for more than 1 totem today, but it has been a week since we've done it, so people might be a little bit rusty on certain aspects of it. And we're also changing things up ever so slightly because we don't want to hold damage anymore in every single phase. So we decided that we would just, pull through and try to deal with every phase as quickly as possible. Which might require a few potions. But, yeah. It should be interesting to see how that works out. Hopefully it does work out, and we don't have to suddenly change up very finicky parts of our mitigation or other potential problems that might arise because of those changes. But yeah, since I want to do that this evening, I need to be rested up for that, because I also don't want to be a liability to the others, obviously. That being said, for next week, I will have to look over stream times. I'm pretty sure that I'm going to go with the setup that I did last week. Wednesday is going to be more Demon Souls, hopefully a nice long stream. Although that's also going to depend on, I think we're going to keep Wednesdays for replays on Dragon Song's Reprise as well. So, Wednesdays, more Demon Souls, more Dragon Song's Reprise. Thursday, Divinity Original Sin will return. I might do an extra stream tomorrow. But again, a bunch of that stuff still up in the air. As always, you can just look at the stream schedule here on Twitch to know when I'll be live and what game I'll be playing. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your day, morning or evening, wherever you are. And maybe I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for chatting. Until then. Bye-bye.